You're thinking about learning to code. Awesome. But I bet you've hit the very first and maybe the biggest roadblock there is. Which language should you learn first? It's the one question that can stop you in your tracks before you even write a single line of code, because honestly, the choices feel endless.
And hey, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you are definitely not alone. Just take a quick scroll through a forum like Reddit. You'll see these endless, passionate debates. Python versus JavaScript, C++ versus Java. It's enough to give anyone analysis paralysis, where you get so stuck thinking about the right choice that you never actually start.
But what if I told you the problem isn't the number of choices? What if the problem is the question itself? Let's try to reframe this whole thing. Here is the absolute key, the most important thing to understand. Programming languages aren't in some kind of competition to be the best. They're just tools. Each one is designed to do a specific job really, really well. So the real question you should be asking yourself is, what do I want to build?
Okay, so let's start with our first path. Let's say you want to build for the web. You know, if you're excited by the idea of creating the things that people actually see and click on and interact with online, then my friend, you are a web artisan.
The official term for this is front-end development. Just think about your favorite social media site for a second, that feed you scroll through, the little heart button you tap, the messages you send. That's all front-end. It's the art of making a website not just work, but feel beautiful and just intuitive to use.
And for this job, there is one essential tool. And I want to be super clear here. This isn't really a choice, it's a requirement. JavaScript is the only programming language that every single modern web browser on the planet understands right out of the box. It is, quite literally, the language of the web.
And look, JavaScript has some pretty huge advantages, especially for beginners. You can start playing with it right now because it runs directly in your browser. There's zero complicated setup. Plus, with tools like Node.js, you can use that same language to build the backend too. And of course, there's a massive ecosystem of frameworks and a huge job market, which makes it an incredibly powerful place to start. All right, on to our next path. What if you're less interested in all that visual design stuff and you're more fascinated by patterns, predictions, and, artificial intelligence? Maybe you want to teach an AI to recognize images or forecast where the market is going. If that sounds like you, then you're a data pioneer.
And for this world, the choice is just as clear. As one popular developer guide puts it, if your interests are in data, AI, or scientific computing, you choose Python. It has totally become the undisputed industry standard.
So why is Python so dominant in the world of data? Well, a big part of it is the syntax. It's so clean and simple, it almost reads like plain English. That's why scientists and researchers started using it early on, which led to this incredible ecosystem of libraries for data analysis and AI. Oh, and it's also fantastic for automating all those boring, repetitive tasks.
Okay, so we've got the web and we've got data. But what about the massive, large-scale software that runs the world's biggest corporations? And what are universities actually teaching as the foundation of computer science? This brings us to the academic path, and the answer might surprise you.
Check this out. A 2016 survey of universities in the UK found a really surprising winner. Java was being taught in nearly half of all introductory courses. That made it way more common than Python at the time.
So, why the huge difference? Well, the people who ran the survey actually gave us the answer. Universities prioritized Java because it was great for teaching formal concepts like object-oriented programming, which is basically a way of organizing complex code into reusable blueprints, kind of like Lego bricks. They also felt it was more relevant to industry. Python, on the other hand, was valued simply because it was easier to teach and learn.
And you know what? That still holds true today. Java is an absolute workhorse. It powers these huge enterprise applications, incredibly complex banking systems, and it's the classic language for building Android apps. It's a language built for stability, for scalability, and for the long haul.
So Java is built for stability and scale, which is perfect for big corporations. But for some jobs, the most important thing isn't scale. It's raw, uncompromising speed. And this brings us to our final path, systems programming.
This is the software that powers other software. We're talking about the core engines that make your video games run, the operating systems on our computers, and the web browsers we use every single day. In this world, every single nanosecond counts.
In this space, the two main contenders are C++ and Rust. Now, as you can see, when it comes to raw speed, they're both top tier. The real difference, the big story, is in memory safety and concurrency, which is just a fancy way of saying a program's ability to do multiple things at once.
With C++, managing all that is a totally manual job for the programmer. With Rust, safety is built in and forced by the compiler itself, which prevents a ton of common errors from ever happening.
So the whole thing boils down to this really crucial trade-off. C++ gives you the ultimate power, but it also hands you the ultimate responsibility. It's kind of like being handed the keys to a Formula One car with no seatbelts. Rust gives you that same incredible power, but with a built-in safety net. It has a super strict compiler that stops entire classes of dangerous bugs before your code can even run.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. We've looked at 4 really distinct paths, and each one has its own perfect tool for the job. So now let's bring it all together and figure out which path is the right one for you.
Let's make this super simple. If your passion is building the things people see and use on the web, your answer is JavaScript, period. If you are drawn to the world of data, AI, and automation, you are going to feel right at home with Python. If you're aiming for a career in large-scale corporate software or maybe building Android apps, Java is a rock-solid traditional path. And finally, if you need every last drop of performance for something like a game engine, you should absolutely explore the power of C++ or the safety of Rust.
And please, remember this. Your first choice is not a life sentence. The core concepts of programming, things like logic, loops, data structures, they're universal. Once you've truly mastered one language, picking up a second or a third becomes so much easier.
Because in the end, the language is just the tool. It's the beginning of your journey, not the destination. The most important choice you're ever going to make isn't what language to learn, but what you decide to create with it. So what will you build?